Okay, let's do the banner exercise. There's some variability here. I'm going to show you the exercise using a program called Fireworks, which you can access via the virtual lab if you use the Ward 115 option when you choose which lab to use. That should be on the desktop of those computers there, and you should be able to use it. Within a browser, still working off from the space of the download area of that virtual computer, and do it pretty much as I do it. Alternatively, if you know Photoshop well and you want to do this with Photoshop, it's very doable with Photoshop. In fact, the thing about Fireworks is it's an older program which Adobe doesn't really support anymore. It's an Adobe program. It was forever the most loved web graphic creation program, and they stopped supporting it, which is sad for everybody who liked Fireworks. You won't have many opportunities to use Fireworks probably, although you can go get copies of it and download it yourself. I like it because it's a nice light program. It does just a very few things and it does them well. Alternatively, let's say you played with Pixlr earlier in this class, in this online version of the class, and you liked that. Well, you could do the same thing. In fact, I've included an older video sort of related to, an earlier version of this class where I use Pixlr to do this exercise. That's an optional video. I mark it as optional because just to make things even more confusing, Pixlr has gone through big changes and they look a little different now too. So you might have to figure out your way through Pixlr now in order to make it work like the one on the screen. But one way or the other, I hope you just get the principles of this. And remember, this is actually just an extra credit assignment, extra credit on a quiz, study guide quiz. So I suppose the actual grade really is not that important, but it's the idea. Maybe you want to use a banner on your resume. What do I mean by banner? I mean a big graphical, essentially H1 type object, but it's actually a piece of art. Why would you do that? Well, if you remember, that was the instructions for if you want to use either some unusual type like a script type or a novelty font, a script font or a novelty font. Your options are to use a banner, turn it into art, in other words. Then you make it look exactly like you want. Or alternatively, you could turn it into you could use a web font and then go get that font directly and still use a font stack, but have that be the first one in line, and that font gets installed on download via a script in the header area. All right, so web fonts, you saw web font use and how web fonts work. You can learn more about it on your own. You saw it in Color 1. Now we're going to make a banner. But one of the key points of making a banner is if we display a banner, we still want the H1 to be there, but we just want to tell it to display none because we need an H1 for SEO. And here we go. I suggest you make a originals folder. There's a videographer image you could download and put there. This is not required for the exercise. You can do the exercise without it, and there won't be any deduction or anything, especially if you're having any problems with the programs or anything. Just watch me do it. But on the other hand, you can use it also. I suggest a root folder in which you would download 2 HTML files. They're sitting there on Moodle for you to download, and you would rename them. And then there's 2 PNG files that you're going to create. And the rest of the instructions here, or just play along with me. And I do have my files someplace. Oh, but I bet you I lost my folder. That's an old folder with way too much junk in it. And I made a new one, in which case, and actually, oh my goodness, this videographer should not be here. I'll have to delete it out afterwards. It should be on originals folder. You see, I still have these named as the last name. I should actually rename them to my name. But in the end, you're going to have these 2, banner 1, banner 2. And if you open it up in Notepad++, and I might as well open the other one also. So do as I say, not as I do. Please rename these files. They're really the same file. I just want you to do 2 different versions because we're going to do two different things with the banner. And you'll see if you look through them, you've got a lot of the normal HTML that we've done. You have this area here, we're going to work in CSS, and then you're going to put your banner in, and I've already given you a div and an ID here, and src alt, so that's where the banner is going to go in here. And you already have an H1 where you really should put your name. All right, good. Yeah, put your name and yours. And if I save this now and run it, this is what it looks like. It's the same old file we've used and reused over and over again. Okay, and it's got an H1 on it. What's the big deal? Big deal is we want something else to go there. And I'm going to use, as I said, fireworks. Here's fireworks. I'm going to make it bigger. This is what it should look like for you also. So fireworks, we're going to do a file, new. And the numbers we want to use are, hey, look at, I think my numbers are, no, they're not. They're actually not what they're supposed to be. 960 and 150, 150, and 72 is good. And we want to have a transparent background. So if you did those same numbers in Photoshop, you would be all set too. Making a new document, and it would actually look quite similar. You'd have a big blocky working area here. So the first thing we're going to do is grab the type tool, and here it is over here. And the point is that we want to make a, we're going to put our name in here because that's going to be the H1 in our resume, right? Sure. We could right now use the properties panel and style it with a certain font and size. If nothing else, I know I'm going to want it really big. I like this little slider thing here, which is something that Fireworks has. It only goes up to 96, and we're going to type in there and make a bigger number anyway. But that's we have this. We can do all our type styling and stuff on this properties panel down here. Which if you take in if you've done the Dreamweaver stuff, you'll see that Dreamweaver has something very similar. There's a connection between these programs. And we could choose a font. Now, there would be no reason to choose a dumb, old, plain sans serif or serif font here, because then you would just use a font stack, and there's no reason to go through this step. This would be if you wanted to do something unusual. So I'm going to choose a script, or you could choose something weirdo like that. Ooh, look at that. I kind of like that. Or you could choose something else, something that's kind of novelty. I'm going to choose a script. You choose what you want. I'm going to make a script like that. Okay, good. And I'm going to click in here and start a type. I made mine all caps. At least I think I did, but with this one, it's hard to tell. And then I can use my regular selection tool and grab that guy and move it around. I want to go in there and click in again. I clicked in with my regular selection tool, which made it turn to the type tool. I want to make it even bigger and bigger and bigger. You want to make it pretty big. Now, what number are you going to use? Well, it depends on the font, you know. So I'm going to position mine roughly there. And there's other choices here, other things I can do with the type. It has the option of a little bit of what we would call, if my cursor will work right, tracking. It's not working right, but we could go down a little bit, and ooh, that'd be way too much down. Make it a little. I actually need to select it first, I believe. Squeeze it together a little bit, for instance, and then I maybe want to recenter it. I'm just centering it by eyeball. I could do this true centering, but something like that. Good. And now we want to set a color for the type, something kind of darkish, because we're going to later do a lighter kind of gradient behind it at a later stage, perhaps. We could just leave it black, of course. That would be fine too. Choose, have I done all the steps I wanted to do? I think so, except to choose a color and then a style. That's true. We want to do a little bit some effects on it. Okay, so we're going to do a color, and then we could choose the color area here. I'm going to choose something kind of darkish. Yeah, I'm going to do a darkish purpley blue. And it changed the color on me. Good. I clicked the paint bucket, and I went down to the paint bucket color choices and chose that, and that's how I did it. And of course, in Photoshop, you could do your own thing with the color, foreground, background color, all that stuff. Alrighty. And now, what about effects? Well, if I just select the box, as is selected here, I can go over here to this whole filters area here, right? And under these choices, I could choose some of the choices I suggest are under filters, shadow and glow and drop shadow. So I could also add a filter here. I can go shadow and glow. I'm going to choose drop shadow. And then I could work on these settings here to change it. I'm going to make it maybe change the angle a little bit. No, I don't think so. Actually, I think it's fine. Just a little shadow there. I could change the color of it, and so on. If I wanted to add another effect, I could click on here and add another effect, like bevel and emboss, for instance. How about inner bevel? Well, I kind of like that, actually. You can play with any of them. Maybe you decide you don't want one of them, you can uncheck them here too, which is a nice way to see the effects have been applied and check or uncheck them. So some little odd changes here. And then let's go ahead and save it. We should have saved it earlier, right? Do you notice anything funny? Look at the file type up here. It's .fw.png. First of all, it's a doubled extension, which is weird, but it's a .png. PNG is the natural file type that is used in this program. So if we do a file save, or this is the first save, or save as, same thing now, and we go find your place where you have it, and go ahead and put it there. And mine, I do not know where it is. Boy, my drive's getting very full. 317, 25, banner 2000, whatever. I'm going to put it there. I'm going to call it. There are instructions here about what to call these things. You call it what you want. I'm just going to call mine band 1. And it's really not that important what you name it, as long as you use your naming rules and it makes sense to you. Okay, now I can leave this open. I should leave this open. It's saved as a PNG. That is actually, there's no exporting necessary. That is the file format that I want. That's its native file format, is PNG. Okay, let's go back. Let's go to our banner 1 file, which again you should rename. Yes, you should. Okay, so all we have to do is go into this area here in the SRC for the alt, of course. It could be your name, whatever. And here it's just going to be the file type. And we saved it into the folder, so it should be sitting right there. And there it is, band1 fw.png. You have to make sure right that way, okay? Oops, where am I? Oh, there I am. I'm going to save and run it. Oh, that's nice, except why do I want both those names there? Will I just go delete my H1? No, I do not. And also, you might want to center this too. Well, how are we going to do that? Well, we'll get to that. I don't want to delete my H1 because I want it there for SEO. So instead, what I want to do is go up in here to the CSS area, tell my H1 to display none. None. It will still be there for SEO, but it won't show up in the page now. Okay, now we're going to use this header div, and we're going to have to size that thing. Size the header div. If I looked in my CSS, I could see this page has a margins on it. Yes. So I don't actually have a true size to worry about, but we know a nice size for something is 960 for a full page sort of thing. So I can give it a hard width. Why not? Width. Remember, yes, it's kind of an image, but the div is not an image. So to center something, we need it to be sized. If we're going to use margins to center, and we are. And a margin of, remember, 0 top bottom would be fine, and auto. The auto left right is what's going to cause the centering to happen. And we lost our H1, but why didn't our centering happen? Just a minute, I'll figure this out and get back to you. So not only did I have a mental glitch, then you saw I had a recorder glitch, and my recorder wouldn't stop. Maybe I'll edit that out, or just leave it there because I'm getting so tired of making these recordings. However, do you see what I did? What the heck was I doing putting width and margin in on the H1? These things need to be on the header div. I even said I was going to do that, and I didn't do it. Of course, the header div is the thing that's holding that image, and it's the thing that's going to get centered. We could apply these things directly to the image itself, but it makes more sense to have a div around it. So now we've told each one not to display, and we've given that header width, and we've centered it with the margin. The 0 is optional. Top bottom would be 0 anyway. And there it goes. So it's nicely centered. You know, and if you want a certain type in a certain color in a certain way, I think this is a fine way to do it. And you could stop right there. And now the next steps we're going to do are going to add a lot of other junk to it, which you might or might not like. I think it's probably kind of distracting, but I just want to show you can do more with this program really as we continue on. And at the same time, I'm going to show you another way to make it, to style it in CSS so this doesn't happen. What? Look I got the dreaded horizontal scroll bar because I used hard units on that, right? So it got jammed into that box and it won't fit now. So let's look at another. We'll do a little more with this here, and then we'll do a little more again. We'll have to make sure this time we save it with a new name though. And I'm going to do the save as right now. I'm going to do band 2. So we don't want to overwrite that original one. That's it's nice to be working in a program where its native file format is the thing you really use, but because you're not exporting, if you just do a save, you will overwrite the thing you already made. Okay, we did is change the name and so on. In these assignments and on paper, you would see I use some long and elaborate names. Probably short names like I just did are fine. So we're going to use the rectangle tool from the vector group. That's interesting, isn't it? There is a vector group, like SVG. So there's vector options in this program. And this is the rectangle tool. I'm going to grab it. And the point is, I want to make a rectangle that goes over this whole thing. But are you perfect at drawing these things? If you are, good for you. I am not. It made it purple because that was the last color we used. Don't worry about that. One neat thing this program has, though, and hopefully it'll let me use it here and not click on my pause button again. One of these things this program has is this little positioning feature here. And I know that the width of my thing is supposed to be at 960. And actually, I'm going to do Control Z. Oh yeah, actually I know that. It's 960, and I also know the height is supposed to be 150, right? Because we made it that way to begin with. I hit the tab or the enter key. And now I also know that the X and Y are supposed to start at 0, because that's it's covering the entire thing. So I hit enter or tab, and it'll take effect. So by using these little numbers here, 960, 150, 0, and 0, I can make something be the right size or right position on here too. Okay, so we did that, and that's something else to show you about the program. And by the way, if you're working in Photoshop, you can do the similar sort of thing there in your own way. Essentially, we just want another layer on top of it. This is a way, we don't have regular layers in this program, so this is a way to make another layer kind of. So we're going to go ahead and choose a gradient tool. It's an option in the color section under the paint bucket. So color section, we hold down the paint bucket and we choose the gradient tool. All right, now we see that things have changed down here too, right? So I'm going to click in the color block in here beside this paint bucket, which gives me a gradient tool, which actually you'll see is similar to a gradient tool we used in the web gradient picker stuff. We have transparency up here and colors down here. So I'm going to pick the starting color and the ending color. And I want to make some colors that are kind of light because my text is kind of dark. Alternatively, you could have done the opposite. I'm going to go from a lighter yellow to a lighter pink. Well, it's very pretty, very Easter-like colors. And now, with my gradient tool selected, if I drag here, I'm going to get different ways of gradient. I could choose this way, I could choose this way, I could choose this way. I kind of like that one. You do what you want. And eventually, you can click off and click back here and that stuff will go away. Click back on Don't worry that there's a line there. That's just kind of an imaginary line because that's the last tool you used. We're going to click on what is essentially this layer and modify, arrange, send to back. So we made a color gradient behind our name. Okay, so we could definitely save there and just stop there and then just go ahead and put that in the document and continue. I'm going to do something else. I want to use that videographer thing. So I'm going to scroll my name way over to this side for now to make some space. In fact, I might even try to squish it a little bit. Oops, it's going to do that. I can maybe bring the size of it down a little bit. 115. Kind of have a little space over here. Okay. And then maybe I'll reposition it a little bit, up a little bit. Okay, I need a little space over here. All right, good. And what am I going to do? I'm going to do File Open here in the program. File Open, and I'm going to open up the videographer. And there he is. Oh my goodness. I've chosen an image which has a white background because I want to show you how you could do like a cutout in this program, and then how you could bring it in from this window to another window is the point here, right? So we found the videographer. We have to resize it first. We want it 150 deep, right? So we're going to click on and make these things lock together. The width and the height lock together, and we want the height, and we'll make it 150, which makes it really tiny. I can do Control Plus that to make me be able to see it better, but that's the true size we want. We know 150 is the depth of our banner. So I'm going to delete the background by using the magic wand. And the way to do this is I'm going to click on this guy, and then I'm going to go to select inverse, everything else, and then hit the delete key to delete all of the background. Then I'm going to go to select, deselect. Good. Okay, so I've got a transparent background silhouette guy now, right? Sure. I'm going to drag this. I'm going to drag it to my other tab. Watch this. Drag to my other tab. That tab activates. Drag down here. I'm going to drop him right here in the corner. Yeah, he's going to go over my name a little bit because my name is still pretty big. And there he goes. Well, it's actually not a bad position, really. So taking like a logo and adding it to a banner would be another option. Make a logo somewhere in Photoshop or Illustrator if you know it, or some other program, and go and drag and drop it in. Oh, you could change the color of that guy by using a paint bucket and dropping some color on it. You could do more stuff, make it more and more and more, whatever. But we'll say that's enough. I'm saving that. And I don't have to do an export, remember, it's already saved as number 2. And I'm going to go back to this guy, and I'm going to go to banner 2, and really that's the same thing I did before. So I'm just going to grab this to save myself some time. I'm going to grab that IMG and copy it. Banner 2, I'm going to find where that IMG is. I got to change my name again though, right? Yeah. Paste it. Band 2. I'll put my name in here again. Save and run. And once again, I've got both things there, and of course I don't, and again it's not centered. Will I just do the same thing again? No, I'm going to do, well, I'm still going to say display none for that, but then I'm going to do something else different. So I'm going to go up to my CSS, and again, H1, it's going to be display none. Good. That'll make it disappear. Now I want to do something else. I'm going to cause the H1, I'm going to use this IMG ID, which is banner, right? And I'm going to set that to 100%, with 100%. So we're saying to this directly to the image, not now to the div, be 100%. Okay, so what happened there? Did it get centered? Well, not really. It just took up all the space. we could, and where's it getting that space from? It's getting it from the width of the page minus the margins. It's a little dangerous. You see, it's getting a little bit rough looking because it's actually making it, on this big wide screen of mine, wider than it needs to be. You could learn about, and we could put in maximum and minimum widths, and then we could still use auto to center it if it got big, if it wasn't able to fill the whole space. But the nice thing about this idea of 100% is that when I make it smaller, of course, it goes smaller too. So using percents in sizing of images is a valid thing to do, but you have to imagine how it's going to work with the space that's available. And this is actually used, to some degree, this idea is used in your Dreamweaver exercise also as you move into it. So this is how to make images responsive, or one way to think about making images responsive. Okay, so that would be the end of the exercise. So you'd save all that. If you made the same mistake I did, and in your folder, which mine is called Banner 2020, you have the videographer in there, you would delete that out. You would make sure those names were correct there. And then you would zip it up. But first, well, please don't change names with the files open. It's not going to like that. But you would zip it up and you would submit that and you'd be all set. Let me see if I can turn this video off now.